Hello and welcome to another episode of the Complete Agent Podcast, where each week we talk all things estate agency. Why am I laughing? Hello and welcome to another episode of the Complete Agent Podcast, where each week we get together to talk all things estate agency. My name is David Warburton, and as ever, I am joined by the legends in the industry, Mr. Ian Storey and Mr. James Kendall. And lads, before you speak, I want to give you a major shout out this week because you've been sharing some detail in our private little WhatsApp group this morning. And obviously, we're not going to go into any major numbers and stuff like that. But I want everybody to know out there who is listening that these lads are absolutely smashing it. They're a joke, an absolute joke. Some of the numbers that you've shared with me today about where you've come from and where you are now, pipelines, what you're banking, it is inspirational, lads. And I think you should be extremely proud of yourselves. And if everybody knew, they would just say, I'm just following what they do. I need to copy what they do because you are legends in the industry. And I wanted to say that because I think you are, and everybody should follow. That's what they should do.
He's a nice guy. Do you know what, Ian? I take back what I said earlier. He's a nice guy.
This, honestly, I mean, that is what the Complete Agent is all about, trying to make a blueprint for everybody to have a great success at this end of the market. And, I can't complain about where we are, sorry. We're doing really, really well. And I think we're going to have our best ever year. And it's from making some changes to the business in the last sort of 3 years. We're going to have our best ever year this year. And I think that I've talked to you about this before. It's all about getting into a cycle, isn't it? Getting the type of properties that you want consistently, which we do, getting them into the pipeline, getting that pipeline out, but then becoming known for what you do and constantly bringing these great new houses together and to the market. And like I say, getting into that cycle where your bad months are actually really good months in comparison to where you've been, and your good months are absolutely stonking months. And clearly, you two are a bit further on in the journey, but wow, what results you've had, and I just really wanted to commend you both. So thanks, played, mate.
Lads. That's really kind. To be fair to you, you've obviously you had your own bits and pieces going on in the background, and you've taken action as well. You've made some difficult decisions, and you've taken action, and fair play to you. So I'll do it. I'll put Dave's voice on.
Mate, by the way, thank you. Appreciate that. It's fine. But for everybody listening, my son has just walked in, my 4-year-old son. Do you want to say hello, mate?
Yeah.
Go on, say hello.
Say hello to the listeners.
There you go.
Hi, Eddie.
Eddie Warburton.
No, go to nursery. Go to nursery.
Can't believe he's 4. When did he become 4?
Mental. So, lads, how the hell has your week been? Let's go to you, Ian Storey.
Thank you very much, James Kendall. Well, we've had a brilliant week. I mean, I just think the market's in extremely good shape. I go and see clients who have been told by their agent they're on over $1 million that the market's not very good, but it's just bollocks. The market is really good if the price is right and the marketing is extremely good.
Can I just say, last week when we had Heather on and you were talking about that, I really loved the way you emphasised the B in bollocks.
Yes.
Heather's sitting there listening and listen to what you're saying, and all three of us looked at you and you went, absolute bollocks. Literally, in my car, came on a surround sound with a bass on the B. So for the benefit of everyone.
I love a swear word, and I think the best thing about swear words is the consonants and how you can really emphasise them.
Yes.
So bollocks.
Yeah,
and there's
thank you.
Of words. I won't repeat all the words, but because I know some ears are more sensitive to those words.
Is that your favourite swear word?
No.
Should we talk about that?
No. Keep going.
Okay.
So my week has been very good. Our week, should I say, at Stories, it's absolutely mentally busy, which I love. So we've had 7 new listings since the podcast last week, averaging 875,000 across the 7, which for me is absolutely perfect because at the right fees, they will all sell. Last weekend, I reckon I had the best day of my career last Saturday because I sold one for 2.625. And I listed one at 2.1. And they're both obviously really nice houses, but there was competition from other agents on both of those. We've got both of them at a higher fee than the other agents, one of whom is an agent that rhymes with Pavels. you may be able to work that one out. The one that we sold is a really good story. So we put it on the market over a year ago, and it's just been a great example of keeping your client happy and client management. So this is a property with loads of land, horsey property. My client is absolutely delightful. She's really well connected locally. So it's a great coup for us. But I've kept her happy all the way through. You know, other people would have lost, other agents would have lost that listing. I've kept her happy. I've kept in touch every single week. I've put it in front of other agents. We've collaborated with other agents to try and get new buyers in, extra marketing campaigns, new photographs, changed the price on Rightmove, took some of the land off, done loads of things. Ultimately, the sale has come from one of our buyers as well, not one of the collaborations with other agents, which is obviously brilliant news. But just really, really good story. And I'm really, really pleased it's gone, because these higher end homes, when they're sat around for a long time, part of you does begin to think, oh God, you know, do you really want them? Should we just be selling stuff at 800 that flips dead easily? But ultimately, those higher end ones are, you know, what gets you up in the morning for me anyway. You know, they're the exciting ones, aren't they, to market, and you can really put a lot of passion into them. So really, really good week. Other good sales agreed this week as well. I've only got about 10 available personally. Phil's got about 12, 13. So they're really nice, manageable numbers. We can keep the clients really happy. The team are thriving. We've brought in Luke Sinclair's new WhatsApp system, integrates with Street, which is working really, really well. And we're going to look at some other AI integrations via Street as well to try and streamline and prevent us having to employ anyone else in the actual office, which is good. Team are in a really good shape. The sun is shining. I've got my legs out. I'm going to London tomorrow and Centre Parks on Monday. How's your week, Dave?
Life's good if your name's Ian Storey.
Not bad at all, mate. How about, were you asking about my week? Yeah, good, thank you. We've done 3 great take-ons this week. One at a farm. You saw that, didn't you? I know you both commented on that, which is coming on the market at 1.4 million. We had our best month of the year in March. We were well ahead of the stamp duty stuff, which was great. We didn't have any issues there with people sort of threatening to pull out at the last minute and stuff like that. A couple of stragglers have gone over, but it was all managed really well by the team. So I was dead proud of them for that. Because it has been very, very busy. So best banked month. I've got so many instructions in photography. I don't know what I'm going to do for the next couple of weeks because we're absolutely manic, which is a really great place to be. So yeah, all good on that front. Thank you. Ian, what about you, JK?
Yeah, to be fair, we've had a decent week. Obviously, end of the stamp duty, everything bar maybe, I think, 5 sales in the end. We didn't get over the line. I think we're around 40 odd K short of where I thought we would be in the pot. But, you know, the majority went, which was really good.
Again, JK, sorry, just to touch on what I said earlier on. You were 40k short, and that is testament to where you and your team are at, because you were 40k short, and I know what your numbers you did, and it was still incredible.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, you know, I'm really pleased with that. I think the other thing, and again, maybe we'll talk about this a bit on this week's pod. But one of the things I've learned is, you know, because I've not come from money and I'm not used to having like a decent amount of money behind me, I've always kind of like, oh, keep it in the bank. But I've much more now these days, especially with, you know, working with you guys as well, you know, professionally and personally, like I've got much more of a growth mindset. So, you know, yesterday we took on another new team member. We've got somebody that's coming in to be a sales progressor. Thanks for your input on that, guys, as well. I really appreciate everything that you were saying, particularly, you know, in terms of what they can offer and the dynamic in the team. But, you know, having a new sales progressor now has allowed, you know, me to move Sandra into what I affectionately call the Vicky role at Ian's place, where she can, you know, meet and greet clients, you know, having a proper stylist. You know, obviously you've got that, Dave, with Sabrina, you know, having that actual style. I just think there's a huge value add there. And, you know, just having that money in the bank, going, right, okay, well, rather than just keeping it there, how do we use it to grow? So gone on a bit of an aggressive growth path now. But I think, I mean, it might be good for you to talk about in a sec, Ian, just so maybe everyone can understand it a bit more. Maybe I can understand it a bit more in terms of...
Yeah, I'm going to say, do you know what? It's a good place to kind of kick off, really, because I do think that people struggle with this, just recruitment in general. You know, they struggle to understand what places to plug. But we've all come from the same place, essentially. We've all had situations where we've been almost solo or partnership, and then it's progressed forward into something a bit more than that. So I think it'd be really good for you two to talk about how you have grown your teams and the key positions that you're now plugging.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to sit here and say, right, well, I've got a full-time photographer and videographer. I've got a full-time sales progressor. I've got 2 full-time negotiators at the front of the business. I've got 3 valuers. But for someone who's just starting out, it's really difficult for them to envisage how that would be. And it goes back to what I was saying before, giving you two a lot of kudos. But it's taken time to get there. And at points in time, it would be easy to spend that money on something else, but you've reinvested into the company quite clearly to take you to the next level. So I think it'd be good for the both of you. And it almost feels like there is a blueprint there. That's how I see it. Like taking on, you can see where you're spending your money. Like we obviously all do very, very high level photography, videography, stuff like that. So you can see where you can bring certain things in-house. Designers, when you start to get to a certain level where you're doing brochures on every house and you are listing 10 houses a month, you can quickly see that maybe outsourcing it to a professional is not as cost effective as hiring someone who can do that in-house full time, but then can also do lots of other things for you within the business. So talk about that, lads. I think it's a really good thing for people to understand, where you grow, having that growth mindset.
I think, I mean, obviously, I look at what you guys have done in your businesses. But also, I'm one of these people that I always think about things, no matter what it is, whether it's kids football, how does that improve? We won't go down that rabbit hole. But whether it's what are you talking about? Why do you shake your head at that? But we talked about kids football, not last week, the week before, and I was talking about how
when I woke up after the podcast, we play it.
So which one of you lads was Johnny Wilco? Wrong shaped ball. Anyway, I always look at how can improve things, and sometimes I see things that other people don't see, and I look at, obviously we're lucky enough to spend a day in your business, Ian, myself and Dave, when, we met up pre-mastermind. And it's good to see how that dynamic works. We've all worked in different corporate backgrounds, but it's just about, I think for me, one of the things I'm learning is putting people around you to kind of, how do you make your business more cost effective? But also, how do you level up your business in terms of having control? Now, we were using external photographers and videographers before, and as great as they were, I was never truly wanting to, kind of push them and into doing things a certain way and giving them tips and advice on how we want things presented. Because what I didn't want to do is them be able to template that and offer that to other agents, because I think sometimes that's an issue. There's always the issue where you can be copied, whereas Jack's obviously in-house, super talented, and he gets a real buzz out of doing photography and videography, but also he likes having I suppose a boss. I don't like using that word, but like having a boss that or manager that can actually have input, and look to improve, because he's always looking to improve, and we're always looking to level up. And we were, talking about, this is how we should do the reels. Let's try this, and it's what's great about it is it's really starting to pay off when it's tangible. Then look at how do we value, because I'm always thinking, we're not at consistently 2% across the business. I can get 2%, but the team sometimes struggle with getting 2%. We're minimum 1.5%. That's a great benchmark now as a business. When you think of what people are charging locally, we're still double the fee of all of our competitors minimum. But I just think for me, it's having that, taking, without trying to blow too much smoke up your arse, Ian, looking at what you do really well and go, right, okay, well, you guys are doing a PLP, how do we need to get that into our business? Because we've known about that for a year, and I've been waiting for this rebrand, which we're doing at the end of the month, so I can actually fully commit to doing the proper new 16-step plan that's updated. And the problem I've got is I haven't got somebody in the role to prepare the pack, get the pack out, hand deliver it, because we've just been so busy. So I've been working towards this role where now Sandra is going to move across from sales progression into what I affectionately call the Vicky role. Then we can have sales progression there. And, I said to her the other day, right, as soon as the valuation's booked, you're going to go out there, hand deliver the pre-listing pack. This is, you're going to meet Richard, you're going to meet James, you're going to meet Chloe next Tuesday, whatever it is. They wanted you to have this before they meet. Bosh, job done. Thank you cards for solicitors when, we complete. Like the whole package of, that extra layer of service. And, knowing that the guys can then go out there and be confident themselves. Like, I'm confident in getting 2+%, no problem at all. We've just listed another nice one at 1.25, 2% fee, upfront marketing fee, 250 grand reduction. I'm confident getting that, but I just think the team, if they know that they can sell the stylist, they've got the 16-step plan that's been pre-delivered, they're all tangible touch points that can help elevate the business and give them the confidence to get their 2%. So I'm conscious now I've talked for about 10 minutes straight there, so sorry for anyone that's just fallen asleep. But Ian, what might be quite good is what does Vicky do in your business? What's her role? So what's, for people that don't understand what a Vicky role is?
So what I was going to say to you before, JK, when you started talking about Vic and how Sandra's going to move into that role, is that I think you have to generally speaking, you have to get to a certain stage in your business where you are turning over enough to be able to have the luxury of having a Vicky.
Yes.
Or Sandra. Obviously, Sabrina does it for Dave, but it's Dave's wife, so it's a bit different. Sabrina can do it because she's part of the business, but to employ someone only in that role, you have to be at a certain level to be able to turn over enough to have the luxury of that.
Yeah.
So when we moved Vic over from being in the office booking appointments into this role, the question was, can we afford to have like a chief happiness officer? I actually nearly called her that because that is what she is really.
She does embody that, having met her a couple of times.
Yeah, she's just absolutely brilliant. So she has the van now. I never use the van. She has the van all the time. She buzzes around in it. She's absolutely hilarious. She just loves it. And she goes, so she hand delivers the PLPs, the pre-list packs. She does all the pre-marketing meetings. She's there for a good hour or two before I get there, or Phil gets there on a shoot day. She hand delivers thank you cards. She calls people on their birthday. She messages clients on their birthday. We've had ones recently that completed like 2 years ago, and she'll pop a message on the group, say happy birthday, John. And they just can't believe it. It's the last thing they're expecting. And then we all pile on and wish them happy birthday as well. But you've got to have the luxury of having turnover to be able to employ someone solely in that role. And if you can, when you get to that stage, it's one of the best things that you can do.
But she'll do viewings and stuff as well, right? So she'll do the odd viewing.
Yeah, she does some viewings as well. Yeah, she does some viewings as well. But mainly just all those other things I was just talking about there. But yeah, it's having the turnover to have the luxury of being able to have someone in that role. But as soon as you're at that point, they're worth their weight in gold. They're worth their weight in gold. So I'll be driving away from a Val and I'll message Vic and just say, can you drop a thank you card in within the hour to them after the Val?
Yeah.
If she's free, obviously she just takes it and does it. So things like that are absolutely invaluable, but you've got to obviously be turning over enough to be able to employ someone just to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's quite an intangible thing, isn't it? It's not like employing a lister where they're bringing on a property to sell, or employing a neg where they're negging it. You know what I mean? It's quite intangible.
What I would say though is that it all depends on what your game is. If you're in the mid to upper end of the market and you want to charge premium fees, it's all part of the premium service. Like the analogy I used the other week in terms of whether you check into a Travel Lodge or a Premier Inn, or whether you go to a bespoke kind of bougie hotel, if that makes sense. It's do you get greeted by someone? Does someone open the door for you? All of those little touches in the middle that you don't necessarily see on the itemized bill, but you're getting as part of the service. And I just think that how many agents are going to drop a PLP off by hand? Probably none. How many are going to drop a thank you card off? How many people are going to call them on their birthday? There's so many different things. And the thing is, sometimes you need, admittedly, and the team have all sort of breathed a little bit of a sigh of relief, because I think we've been operating at kind of optimum like efficiency level of team. in terms of team members. And it's really apparent when someone goes on holiday or if somebody's ill. I mean, which is rare, but if somebody goes on holiday, which is more often the case, then we do kind of fall short a little bit. You know, we really notice that
I think it's that way is better though, isn't it? Like we became a bit too bloated until recently, and a member of the team left, and we haven't replaced them.
Yeah,
and they were a full-time team member booking in appointments in the office basically, and we haven't replaced them. And we are more productive. We're definitely more productive now. And it's been really interesting. Now, Aidan has had to pick up a bit of the slack, but we're about to outsource what he's been doing. Basically, he's been picking up booking in the shoots, which is a bloody nightmare because you're booking in me, Vic, photographer, videographer, copy, floor plan, and EPC, Holly, there's so much, and the client and the diary. There's so much to think about, and Aid's been doing it, and I don't want him doing that forever. So we're about to outsource that, to a local lady
like who can do it from home, or something kind of thing,
a freelance person, But we're definitely more productive with a leaner team, and by leaning on Street and the new WhatsApp integration with Luke, we're going to be able, I think, to carry on without replacing that team member, and I think the team agree as well. So it's interesting how the more you grow and the more successful and the more you turn over, you can, or I was certainly guilty of just employing someone else. Employ someone else, because you think, well, we can afford it. But really, it can actually make you less productive if that person isn't the right fit. So I feel like we've got a really lean team now, and we're definitely going to try and outsource more that we can moving forward, and bring in these AI integrations with Street. Things like automated booking of viewings and valuations.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at how we can integrate that, but still maintain our service at 2% for the higher end. That's important. We're not a lower end churner, are we? So
I think letting people book and letting them self-serve online is important. You know, we've had one thing I have noticed recently is, and I don't know if you guys have picked up on it on Street, it'd be worth checking it. In your inquiry center, if somebody only half fills out a valuation on your website, sometimes their details just go into inquiry center, so they don't actually get booked as a valuation. And we had a couple this week where the people hadn't called in, but we just, because we keep an eye on the inquiry center, we'd noticed that there was a valuation request in there, and we had one for a place that Rich has gone out to at 1.75 that we hope is going to come on. And then another one, great advert for the things that we've been doing on social media. A lady rang up and said, "Oh, hi, are you Chloe?" And she was like, "Yeah, it's Chloe." And she was like, "I love your videos on Instagram. I love your reels." She goes, "That's why I called you." So she was buzzing to hear that. I just think, that having, investing in the right marketing mix, investing in the right team. Because ultimately, from my point of view, I want a business that runs without me there.
Eventually.
And the thing is, and I won't go too deep into this podcast, but the other thing is, and I've mentioned to you guys, is that I'm going to set up a lettings business. And I've had a couple of meetings with someone that I'm going to set it up with. And I'm just going to crack on and do it. But what I have started doing, and because for full context and without making this the lettings podcast now this week, is I identified where I failed 11 years ago when I set up a lettings business, but also my business brain and my lead generation mind is it's not even in the same league of anywhere where it was 10, 11 years ago. And I've already started asking people, a classic question, I spoke to somebody I know the other day that's a portfolio landlord. And I said, just wanted to ask your advice, really. Why does... I think there's a saying, isn't there? If you want money, ask for advice. And if you want something else, ask for money.
Sounds like a lyric from Mr. Worldwide track.
Yeah, went from negative to positive, just wanted to know that. But I think that's the quote. I think it's if you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money
twice, something like that, he says.
Yeah. So anyway, this portfolio landlord that I know that we've sold for before, I rang him up and I said, "Look, can I just bend you here for 2 minutes? Because we're thinking of setting up a lettings business. And I just wanted to know, from a perspective of a person that, owns a portfolio, why would you switch from your current agent to another agent? Because I understand, obviously, it's easy, it's managed, it's there, and this, that, and the other. And I said, look, I'm not pitching for business. I'm just genuinely interested in how I can, other people like you, how I can get them on board. And I said, what's been your gripes, if any, with the current agent? And I told him, in terms of what we're looking to do, in terms of we're not going to have property managers, we're going to have asset managers. So there'll be people that constantly look at how your property is performing from a lettings point of view. Can you up the rent? If you have money and you want to invest it, where can we help you buy another property to add to your portfolio, and what's going to be best, and this, that, and the other, help you negotiate for the best price. And then change the language around it. And it was something that Simon said to me, that an agency in London who I followed as well. You guys may know Paramount Properties, a guy called Spencer Lawrence. And they really thought about the language, and it's not landlords and tenants, it's owners and residents. And I really like the language around that, because what we're going to try and build is more of a mid to high end letting agency, not James Kendall. It's going to be called something completely different. But it really just made me think when I was talking to him. Then he started reeling off all of these things. He started saying, well, they don't do X. They've said they do this and they haven't done it. Never. I've always had to push for a rent increase. They've just wanted to let it for the same price, and we then re-let for £200 more. So he gave me this long list, and I said, that's really, really helpful. I really appreciate all of that. And at the end of I said, look, I really appreciate if I can buy you a coffee or something another time. I really appreciate the 10 minutes that you give me. Anyway, at the end of the call, he goes, well, if you want, I could give you 10 to get started with if you want. And I was like,
wow.
I was like, okay, great. I really appreciate it. I was like, well, look, if it's not going to cause you a headache, I was like, maybe we can talk about it later on. We're not looking to launch till sort of September onwards. But
do you know what? I just want to pick up on something you said there, JK. I think lettings, it's very easily neglected. I mean, we've got a lettings portfolio of about 125, something like that. So it's not massive, but it's really good, and it's grown organically. We've never really advertised it much. And it's when you look at your competition out there, you'll find that it's neglected because rentals are so easy. So when a house goes on the market, generally speaking, it'll let quite quick. So standards slip, and they won't. The amount of houses out there that don't have floor plans, really poorly photographed, no thought gone into any presentation, things like that. They just whip them on because they know that they turn over high. My point is, I think there's an opportunity out there for really great letting agents to take on good portfolio sizes and also the higher end of the market as well. Because, again, traditionally, I think rentals are perceived as being two-bed entry-level terraces, flats, things like that these portfolio landlords buy. I've got a couple of really great clients that will buy 2 or 3 a year, and they're all flats and terraces, and they'll just keep adding to the portfolio. But I've picked one up in the last few weeks, and the rent on it is $3,750 a month. We've picked another one up more recently at 2,000 and 2,500. These are big numbers for our area, and the houses are amazing. So you cannot photograph one of those just on a phone and stick a no floor plan on and throw it out there and expect to get a really amazing tenant. It can happen, obviously, but I tend to find that managing agents get very lazy in that department. And actually, if you look at it from a different point of view, it's not just about getting the tenant in, it's also about you as a brand once again. So why has your sales brand grown so quickly, so much? Why has mine grown so fast, Burton James? It's because we are consistently doing the same things every week. And we consistently put out a superior product, a really high-end, high-level product, and you get known for doing it. And I think if you put out shit on your lettings, that's what you'll get known for, and you can't differentiate. Whereas with ours, no, we professionally photograph everything regardless of what it is. It could be a one-bed flat. I don't care. I want everything to look great. And like
do you
do
social media reels as well on them or not?
I haven't been doing, but it's starting to make me think differently. So this particular house that I'm talking about, the 3,750, I was actually going to go to town on it and do the full hit because it's worth a lot of money to the company. It's probably going to be a 5-year let. It was a big deal for us. But as it happened, we got someone in a different way that I've not needed to go down that route, and the tenant's absolutely perfect. But it is the perfect property to showcase as well. And I want landlords to see what we're doing.
Yeah.
And go, I want my rental property to look like that.
Yeah.
And I think you can really grow your mid to high end business of rentals as well in exactly the same way as you can grow the sales side.
Well, I just think, Gacy said something to me the other day when we were chatting on the phone, and mid to high end sales and lettings almost go hand in hand because, majority of the clients that you've got at the upper end, are landlords, whether they're portfolio landlords, whether they own one or two properties, they are. And if they're not landlords themselves, they hang around and socialize with people that are, and it's just sometimes asking the right questions. Again, asked a question the other day of somebody else and said, if you don't sell the current house that you're in, would you be interested in renting it out? And he said, yeah. And I said, I reckon looking at, online, I've done some market analysis. I reckon you could probably get somewhere between $3,500 and $4,000 a month. And he said, yeah, I ideally want, we were looking at 3,500, 3,750. So he's obviously had the conversation. And I said, look, this is what we would do. We'd photograph it professionally, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, yeah, he goes, when the time comes in September, he goes, ideally maybe before, but let me know. It won't be a right move job. It'll be a corporate let kind of job. We've got a couple of contacts already in that space where, it'll be a 2, 3, 4, 5 year let potentially. And it won't have to hit there. But that's money there ready to be banked. We're talking about, I want to push more than 10% plus VAT management fees. But they've already said yes to 10% because I said, look, to get us going, 10%. But again, that's £400 a month plus VAT. That's sitting there, ready to go for 5 years. Happy days. So I think it's just sometimes just asking the question, and it's just looking at all of you. Sometimes the money is there, and you literally just have to walk up to the money tree and start grabbing the notes off the tree. But you just have to be able to, commit to walk into because one of the things that I've seen, and I hope letting agents don't take this the wrong way if they're listening, but a lot of letting agents seem to grow their business to the easy way. And what I mean by that is they just do acquisitions. So rather than actually putting the hard yards in and going out there and, not necessarily networking, because I think networking is a waste of time, but rather than actually, taking the things that are in front of them, speaking to the landlords they've got on their books, who do you know that's a landlord that might be looking to switch, doing the actual hard yards of lead generation, they'll acquire, 100 units at however much it costs them over 2 years and hope that it pays itself off and grow by acquisition. And I just think you can do. I've had 2 conversations that I've just mentioned there out of a load of others that I've had where, there's potentially I think about $2,000 a month's worth of business come from 2 conversations, just asking the question.
Yeah, 100%. It's all in there. It's all in the database as well. And a lot of people talk about cash flow and things like that. And obviously it's a mid to high end podcast. This for sales really, but the lettings business, if you have the time, energy for it, passion for it, whatever, you could actually grow it reasonably quick, but with small manageable numbers in the space that you're already in, because they are out there. I've found that over the last sort of few months, where we've picked up some really nice higher value stock, and you look at it and go, well, we've just added another 20 grand to our turnover by taking on these 2 or 3 really nice homes. And it's a nice to have. Let me tell you, when it drops in, if you've having a weak month or anything like that, it is a really nice to have. So my point is, I think people often view lettings as it's a lot of hassle, there's a lot of legislation. And if you're doing high volume, again, at the low end of the market, yes, it is. Yeah. And you're going to need to look at a lot more full-time on it. But there are opportunities out there to pick up mid to high level stock that needs managing on great fees. And
just talking about that, mate, quickly, just to interject, what I found amazing was when I did a bit of market research locally, what some people are charging. Some people are doing 4% fully managed.
Oh, wow.
How the hell can you do 4% fully managed? Why would we, like you said, Dave, it's hassle, it's legislation, it's this, that, and the other. Your average, let's say your average rental for your 2-bedroom apartment is, I don't know, £800-900 a month for 4%. Are you kidding me? Like, why would you even bother?
Well, all this, we were talking about the same thing there, JK. the same principles apply. So how you look and how you present your rental properties is what you'll attract. And the same problems in the rentals in the rental sector exist again with other agents. You just get people going, all right, well, if they're 10%, I'll do it for 9%. He's going to do 9%, mate. How do you differentiate yourself? Well, if your photos look crap and you've no floor plan, everything's the same, then you can't differentiate yourself. But lettings, I mean, just the stuff that you mentioned there, the reason that a lot of people walk away from it is go, God, there's so much legislation, there's so much of this, so much of that. And I get it, it's hassle, it's got to be ran. But that's exactly why your landlords also need you.
Yeah, that's why you exist. If it was that easy, people are just constantly doing it. And I think that's why a lot of landlords do end up, going on whatever that open rent, or whatever it's called, and doing it themselves because, they've been paying someone 4% to not manage it. And, the proverbials hit the fan and they've gone, well, I've paid you £30 a month for the last 10 years. And, the proverbials hit the fan and you've done nothing. So, there is definitely a market for a mid to high end agent. The marketing is on point, but also like just going back really quickly, and this, I realise it's turned into the lettings podcast, but the asset management, and I think principles can obviously transfer over to sales as well and vice versa. But the asset management route, saying to a landlord, look, right, your place is renting at the moment for, I don't know, £1,800 a month. If we put a new kitchen in, because the kitchen's looking tired, we could probably rent this or redecorate, rent this for I don't know, 2,200 or 2,000 or whatever it is. If something's been let for 5 years at £1,800 a month, the chances are now it probably could be more like £2,500 a month with a decent kitchen and a redeck and go, right, well, look, if you invest this, we could probably rent this out for another 5 years. And you could get X, Y, and Z. The value is going to appreciate in the house of X, Y, and Z, and you can push the rent up as a result to this as well. And it's just, I think, that service element of it and actually handling the assets and going, right, this is how we're going to grow your lettings portfolio, and really work with people that if they are portfolio landlords and they want to buy more, go and use it onward negotiation service. It ties in with the business. If you're going to use us. We offer the onward negotiation service. You'll get an experienced agent that is going to help you buy your next portfolio property at the best possible price, but also help you get it in the right area. And then hopefully seamlessly, again, if they're buying one through us, I mean, it's unlikely we're going to have a portfolio property in JK. But if we did, let's say we had a 4-bed detached and somebody was after an exec 4-bed detached at like $500,000-600,000 to rent out, because it does happen. We've already got the photos, we've already got the floor plan. Potentially, you could try and line up a tenant while it's going through, and when it completes, they've got a minimal void period, and there's a tenant there ready to go. A week or two after they've completed. So, I think there's loads of sort of strings, and I see it as a great opportunity. And the person that I'm going to be working with, is a very experienced letting agent, someone I trust highly, that is super motivated. And I think, it's having that growth mindset. And you've got to roll the dice, haven't you?
100%. I think we're getting towards the end, lads. But just how are you seeing the market at the moment? Let's go to you, Ian. Obviously, you were quiet then throughout the letting stuff. So I think you went for a run, didn't you? Kim's come back.
God, I've got the really words to talk about.
I think we're going to call it iMove, and we're going to brand up some nice cars. I heard a friend of mine's got some nice cars that they want to get rid of.
I've got a couple of pink and green ones.
Oh, nice. And cars.
Yeah, so lads, we have obviously we've just come to the end of Q1. We're in the process of getting our stuff out for our members. And it's good to review some of the statistical data and things like that. But what we're seeing, obviously, is the end of this stamp duty holiday, which I believe, by the way, not holiday, rather, the threshold's changing. But I just feel that's been massively blown out of proportion. There's been so much stuff written by people who just don't understand it on social media, the media themselves. It's just been, it's not a massive game changer, is it? Let's be honest. People are still going to be moving. But that was a big thing that stood out for me. We've obviously going into the April spring market now. As I said, I think we're sat on 11 that are in photography at the minute, so it's going to be busy. Viewing activity at our end is pretty good, lads, as well, and we agree in sales, and I think getting deals that's one of the things that you're having to do deals, but they're out there. That's what we're finding. What about you, Ian?
I think the market's in great shape. I really do. with the exception of the odd property that is either maybe overpriced or, particularly quirky, for whatever the reason is, there are plenty of buyers and sales happening. You get north of a mil, basically, maybe north of sort of 1.2, 1.1, 1.2, and there are less buyers in our area for those properties, but there are buyers, and you can definitely agree sales on stuff if the price is right and if you keeping in touch with your client so they don't change agent and they're patient, they understand you're doing all you can. There's no particular problem, I don't think, at all. You want to have a good spread. So obviously we do brand stretch really well at Storey. So the lowest we tend to go is about 300 grand. That would have to be a really nice characterful cottage. And then we've just put one on the market, just saw one at 2.6. So you can get good brand stretch if you do it right and you're in the right kind of area. But I think the market is in great shape. If you're communicating correctly and you're firm with your proposition and you're good with negotiating with buyers, I think the market's great. About you, James?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we didn't break any records in March in terms of sales agreed. But a lot of the sales that we did were high value sales. So, whilst I think we only ended up on 8 or 9 in the end, with the when your average fee is 10 grand, it's not really that was a terrible month. Where we're at now, you could do the best part of effectively 9 sales and have well over 100 grand like gross for that month.
It's amazing.
It's a great place to be. We've agreed some great sales and like you said, I think you said a minute ago, like deals are being done. Sometimes, I mean, how many times have you sold something for less than you bought it for?
What do you mean?
Like like anything, like if you buy anything, not necessarily property, just anything. Loads of stuff. So it does happen. And I think agents tell themselves in their mind sometimes, well, they paid this for it, so they're not going to accept that.
Yeah.
Because just because that somebody paid 800 grand for something, and they want 900 grand for it, doesn't mean that because they want 900 grand for it, it's worth 900. They could have overpaid at the time. If they were in, let's say, for example, they bought in the peak of 21 and they're in a bidding war, they're a cash buyer and they overpaid to secure the house, and now they need to move for a change of circumstances. If the market valued it at the time at 750, 700, just because they paid 8 doesn't mean that it's worth more. It was what it was worth to them. So, a few deals where we've done recently where we've gone, look, the market doesn't agree with the price we're at. What does it look like if you sell at 7 rather than 8? Or what does it look like if you sell at 1.7 rather than 2 million? What does that look like? Well, we need to move and, we can't physically do any more. It's been marketed by 2 or 3 other agents before. So they've had the London buyers, which they all know is absolute rubbish. And, the reality is it's marketed properly and the market doesn't agree with the price. So realign your expectations, get it on at this price. And we've done some great deals. And the thing is, people have managed to onward negotiate as well. We've thrown a couple of onward negs in for free to get deals done.
Yeah.
We've gone, look, we'll negotiate on the next house. Yes, you're 100k light of where you think you're going to be here. However, let's try and make the difference up the other end. If you're selling at 1.1 and buying at 2. Yeah.
That's also, JK, just funny you should say that, because that's also worked a couple of times for me recently where we've managed to maintain 2% by including the onward neg.
Yeah.
That's worked really well. So you should definitely have an onward negotiation proposal as part of your offering. We have it on the website as well, and I send a link to clients quite often.
I don't understand why more agents don't offer it in this country. I think it's information gap, I think, a lot of the time.
It's a confidence thing as well, isn't it? It's being confident with what you do.
Yeah, I mean, nobody else is doing it, so nobody else, why should we do it?
Yeah.
I think there's probably a bit of that of it, but yeah, no, it's market's been good. I think it will continue to be so. It's still busy. Really looking forward to getting nearly 10,000 market updates out in the next couple of weeks. I'm heading on holiday on Saturday for 10 nights, which would be nice. Little breakaway with the family, and no doubt we'll come back mid-April, recharged and ready to absolutely rinse Q2 of 2025.
Yeah. But, do you know what I was thinking that this week as well? I was thinking that the reason I book in so many holidays across the year, so we went skiing in February, we're going to Centre Parks next week, we're going to Abersock at Easter, going to Mallorca in July.
Nice.
You know what I mean? The reason I do it is because I work my absolute bollocks off for that period in between. So I was up this morning at 5:30 doing proposals for clients.
Yeah.
And until 7 when the kids come down, have the breakfast with the kids, send them off to school, straight in here to the podcast. You know, I'll work my bollocks off for that 6-week period, and then I book a nice holiday. And then I know I'm coming back refreshed to do another 6, et cetera. So that I love it being that way, you know, because I love working, but obviously I love spending time with Alex and the kids as well. So I also think if you can show your team that, you know, because we do book like a lot of holidays, but the team know how hard I work in between.
Yeah.
So, and I think you can inspire the team as well if you do that.
Well, the thing is, you've got to think of how many plates you're juggling as well. You know, you not only are juggling stories, but you're juggling TCA as well. You know, other personal commitments that you've got going on in the background. You know, I'm the same. You know, JK, TCA. Obviously, another Ned role that I've got for a commercial property business. Starting up a lettings business. You know, there's
you need to make sure that those 2 new businesses can end with an A sound, because then it'd all rhyme, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
JK, TCA. What are you going to call the Latins?
We'll make your day.
Latins by JK.
Well, I'll have to think about that actually. But
think about it.
Yeah.
And then we'll end the pod because it's getting boring.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's cool. Right, for anyone that is still awake, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.